Hey folks, Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here, and today we're going to talk about the F35 Lightning II. All right, now as we get into this, I just want to make full disclosure. I worked for Lockheed Martin for almost 18 years. I spent about 12 and a half of them on the F35 program itself. Now, I've worked both moving assembly line, I've worked material flows, as well as sustainment and proposals. But this aircraft is a pretty unique one in that it takes a lot of the technology off of the F-22, as well as things that we've learned over the years, and basically puts them into a beautiful little package. Now, today we're only going to talk about the Ctol, which is the conventional takeoff and landing aircraft, primarily used by the U.S. Air Force as well as the air forces of other nations that are on the program. So, on that note, other nations that are on the program, okay, there are 8 partner countries tied into this program, and that is going to be the UK, Italy, Australia, Canada, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, and Turkey. Now, those partner nations are what keep this program sold, because like the F-22, if you only had one customer like the U.S. Air Force and one variant, which was just straight up bad to the bone, and they started to reduce and cut spending on your program, you quickly lose a program, and that's what happened with the F-22. Now, the F-35, I got to tell you, it is a 5th generation fighter, and it is probably one of the most bad to the bone weapons out there in terms of capability outside of the F-22. I still personally think the F-22 is probably unmatched by anything in the world, but the F-35 ain't far from it. Now, the key behind F-35 was supposed to be affordability. There were a lot of tenants in on the program at the beginning. I will tell you that the time from SDD, which is a system development and demonstration, to the time that it's supposed to make rate production is highly condensed compared to other aircraft programs. So, for example, the F-117 stealth fighter, that bad dude has started, they probably started that aircraft design and everything back in the late 50s, almost around the time the B-52s were out. It's pretty insane if you know the history behind it. Now, they worked on it, they shelved it, they worked on it. My grandfather actually worked on that program, and I remember him going out to Area 51 to work on it. Of course, we didn't know it was Area 51, and of course, we didn't know where he was going, but he was a big part of that program. So now, there are 3 main partners on the F-35 program. That's going to be BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin, and then Alenia out of Italy. Okay, now Alenia is responsible for the wings, and BAE System makes the aft section. And then, of course, Northrop Grumman is the other partner. They make the center fuselage. And then Lockheed Martin actually does all the assembly and manufacturing, as well as the forward fuselage. Now, the reason they make the forward fuselage is because that's where all the kind of secret sauce is, right? So, but those are going to be your partner programs. I said 3, it's actually 4. Now, this is a really cool thing about the F-35, whether it's the Stovall, Ctol, or the CV variant. It is basically designed for the Xbox generation. That means when you get into the cockpit, it is super duper visually focused, okay? Very plug and play feel to it, where everything is very intuitive. Like I said, the inside of the cockpit's insane. We'll get some looks at that here in just a minute. But the plan is to manufacture 1 a day, okay? And so they aren't there yet. I think they make about 90 plus a year right now, which is a pretty good pace. But it is a modular assembly. That means when it goes together in hunks and chunks, okay? All of the production and manufacturing is modeled before they actually implement it. That means that they run it through a simulator to make sure it's even achievable before they start cutting metal. I remember when they first cut the first piece, and I was worked with the Shingujitsu team to design the moving assembly line. And it's crazy because today you can look and they are stacked. Now, I will tell you that the manufacturing facility or assembly line for the F-35 is a mile long from one end to the other, which is quite remarkable when you really think about it. And today they are just racked and stacked all the way down the line. You've got a wing assembly system. You've got the mate, which is where they put everything final together, and check out. That's all right there together. But the line is quite remarkable in the fact that it's mostly automated. I mean, there's a lot of automation in it. Everything that's drilled, the holes, everything else. There's no hand drilling. There's no snowflakes when this thing goes down. Everyone is exact all the way through the process. So from that standpoint, it is pretty remarkable. Now, the other thing that I think is probably notable about this is the fact that the helmet, it's about a $400,000 helmet, and maybe a little bit more than that. And it's not just a helmet, but it's a HMD, which is a helmet mounted display. The interesting thing about the helmet is that when the pilot puts it on, because there are cameras located around the external body of the aircraft, below it on the lower surface of the wing, around the front of the fuselage, all the way back in the tail. When the pilot puts on the helmet, he can basically make all of that go away. Okay, where all he has is a HUD, or a heads-up display. And if he looks over his shoulder, left or right, down between his legs, he doesn't see an airplane. All he sees is whatever he programs to go into that helmet based on his personal, whatever he decides he wants on that, okay? Usually you get critical, flight critical data that's going into the helmet, right? And so, but he can load that helmet up with all kinds of different things except for the aircraft if he doesn't want to see the airplane. So if he's flying over a target and he wants to see the ground, he wants to see the impact, he just flips a switch and that's what he does. He looks down between his legs, does his weapons release, and boom, he can see all of it in his helmet. It's absolutely insane. It has night vision. There's a FLIR on the very front. And so when he's flying, he can do night vision inside his helmet. The other thing too is really, really interesting about this aircraft when we talk about the FLIR. There is a camera on the front of the aircraft underneath the front nose, okay? That camera actually has the ability to fly over an area with that FLIR and actually look at heat signatures on the ground. And I say that to give you an example. If there was an aircraft sitting on ground and there was a refueling truck next to it, and that took place, say, an hour ago, that camera, when a pilot flies over using that FLIR system, can actually see where that plane was once, and the plane could have been gone an hour ago. It still gives them a heat signature on the ground and shows the fuel truck right beside it. And so you could tell that that fighter pilot, or that jet, was actually hooked up to a fuel truck. And then you can see where it taxied. It's pretty incredible, the amount of data that's in this aircraft. It is, I forget what they say, but it's like 1 million lines of code or something inside this airplane. It is nothing like it, I'll be honest with you. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the weapons bay system. Now, this is an internal weapons bay. That means everything is inside the aircraft. That's what also makes it stealthy. Besides the coatings that go on the aircraft, we'll get back to that in just a second. But the weapons bay system, because it's internal, makes that aircraft stealthy. If they don't use just the internal, they decide they want to go wing mounts and they load up on the if they decide they don't want to go internal and they load up on the wing mounts, right, with the pylons, and they throw in all the external stuff, as well as external tanks, which they've got mounts to do all of that, then it's not so stealthy. It is still low profile on the signature in terms of radar, but it's not stealth. Now, if they fly stealth, they put everything internal, you can't see it. Now, the reason for that, and this is what's really interesting. In the old days, 117, say for example, the F-117 fighter, stealth fighter, everything was stealthy because of the angles of the aircraft, right? You know, the surface, it looked like a flying diamond, so to speak. Had those real freaky looking rigid things on the outer edges and everything else. And so that was radar absorbing. Today, they don't do that. Today, they use coatings, and it's in the paint. So when you see them spray that gray paint on the aircraft, what they're doing is basically the exact same thing. They're accomplishing the same thing. Those coatings are super duper highly sensitive. Like, that is not something that they ever want to get out, because if anybody reverse engineers that coating, like China or Russia, they can actually make their aircraft very stealthy as well. We don't want that in their hands. So, but that's how they do it today. It's basically through a spray coating. Again, as long as they are using internal weapons systems inside the aircraft, that aircraft is unseen on radar. So, okay, now I think that's going to cover us for today on the F-35 Ctol. Now, my plan is to do another one on the Stovall and then on the CV, which is a carrier variant, which is the Navy version, okay? All right, well, listen, I hope you enjoyed that. It's kind of a lot of fun doing this from time to time just to change things up a little bit. And so we'll see you here in a couple days with the next one on the Stovall. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.